Good afternoon and welcome to our first in a parent series of webinars. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to give our attendees time to get on to the webinar, and then we will start. While we're waiting for people to be able to come in and join, we want to just let you know that this is the first in a series of webinars that has been put out. The next one will be happening on August 27th at 9 a.m. We also want to let you know that these are all being recorded so that you can watch them at your convenience. And also this particular presentation will also have slides available up on the district website for all of you to see. I see we've got some people coming in. I'm going to wait maybe about 30 more seconds or so to allow the attendees to join the meeting. While we're still waiting, I'm still watching people come in. We also want to let you know that the purpose of today is informational, which means we are not going to be having a live Q&A. However, everyone who is registered for the webinar today will have a chance to fill out a Google form that we will be sending out. It allows us to put together questions that are commonly asked, and also for those specific questions to direct you to personnel who can be of assistance. We love working with all of our families, but we are also at only 3 sites, and we want to make sure that your, actually only 2 sites, and we want to make sure that your questions are answered if they're site specific. And so we will direct those questions to the site administrator there, or someone there that can help you. The other part of that form will include some feedback for us, because this is brand new to all of us. We are working in a brand new modality, and we're hoping that we can deliver these more regularly as we go through the year. And as distance learning is changing over time, we want to be able to provide that support for you. So there'll be some feedback, and there'll also be an area where you'll get a chance to put some ideas for future topics, as there's things that you would like to see. Today, it's the 3 of us as counselors, but we have a lot of great support in our district and a lot of great experts, and we hope to be utilizing those people as well. And so that's what some of that little area will be in there for. So once again, it'll be a Google form going out. Look for it within the next couple days, and we'll get those answers and FAQs out to you as quick as we can. I think we're about ready to start. And so with that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Dana Wagner, and I am the counselor at Tice Creek School. I have been with the district for 22 years at 4 different sites, and so I've gotten to know the district pretty well. And I also have 2 children of my own who are going to be transitioning into WCI as we start on Monday. And with that, I'll pass it off to Emily.
Good afternoon. My name is Mrs. Foster, Emily Foster, and I work at WCI. I have been there, this will be my 6th year, and I work with students the last names L through Z. Mr. Constantine and I work together. We're open to supporting all families, but that is typically our caseload, and we're here to support you. So feel free to reach out at any time, and thank you for attending the webinar. Thanks for being here today.
Hello, I'm Michael Constantine, and I'm the other counselor at WCI, and thank you so much. I'm so excited that you guys are able to attend this webinar.
And with that, we will get started. I'm going to share my screen so that we'll be taking this through a slideshow. Our slideshow is pretty detailed, and we did that on purpose because we want to make this a reference that you can refer back to. We're going to be providing with a lot of information today, and that's a lot easier if we could be a little bit more detailed than that, we thought. But also feel free to grab a notebook. There's going to be a resource slide at the end. So some of these things that we're talking about and ideas we have will be there for you. So you don't have to worry about rushing and getting everything written down. It will be there for you. But if you would like to take notes, please feel free to do so. And give me a chance to share my screen. All right, so this is Parent Tips for Success in Distance Learning. It's presented by Dana Wagner, Emily Foster, and Michael Constantine. For those of you at our sites, this is our information, but we also are available to answer general questions. The best way to get access right now is, of course, through email, because we are also in distance learning and teaching, and so our emails are the best way to get a hold of us. Today, we really want to focus on 4 topics. The first of them is going to be the parent mindset or the parent perspective. How we're approaching distance learning really impacts how our students and our children are going to impact distance or see distance learning. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the importance of schedule and routine in your day and how that looks different for all of us, but it is an important piece. We're also going to talk about the physical space of learning. Our children are learning from home, and so we need to start thinking about school in the home and what that looks like. And finally, we're going to talk about our parent expectations. What is your role in this new model of distance learning? We've come a long way from spring, and we want to be able to give you some clarification of what some expectations of you are. And I'm going to hand it over to Michael Constantine.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Dana. So parent mindset and attitude, I think we all can agree that this is a less than ideal circumstance, and that we would rather have our kids learning in face-to-face contact with their teacher, and being able to see their peers. And on top of that, we throw in that, you know, all the other hardships that this pandemic has caused on families, that it's kind of at times hard to keep that positive mindset. But I think the real important thing that we do have to realize is that our kids are in this too, and they're dealing with it too, and they are looking to us for leadership. And as parents, we really have to convey that right tone, because they are picking up on our body language, whether it be verbal or nonverbal. And if we set that message of reassurance, confidence, and optimism, hopefully they will follow our lead. I think it was like in early March when we just started the lockdown. My daughter, you know, she loves to go to the playground. She really enjoys just spending hours at the playground, and we love just going there too because it gives us a little break too. But when we knew that they kind of fenced up the playground, and it was really a difficult time to think of, oh, we were so scared that what are we going to do when our 3-year-old gets there? She's going to be so upset and she's not going to have fun. And we really, me and my wife had to take a step back and you know, convey a positive message to her and let her know, yeah, summer, the playground is going to be closed, but we still have so many awesome things that we can do at the park. And we have the whole field. We can play tag and chase and fly kites, ride bikes, have picnics, and really kind of let her know that it is going to be okay, and that she has to follow our lead to know that we're not worried and that everything is going to be fine. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to go over 5 mindset tips when it comes to hopefully having a positive mindset. Next slide. And as we're stating, optimism is key, and that we are the models of having a positive attitude when it comes to distance learning. That if we are conveying and portraying a negative tone towards distance learning, the kids, your children are going to follow your lead. So we definitely want to make sure that we do portray this as a positive, hopefully growth opportunity, and that we look at it as something that they will hopefully learn from. And it is a life skill that they're going to have to learn from, because as we see, things that we expect to happen as a normal don't always happen. And if we can get through being stuck and unstuck and persevering through that, then that is something that's going to carry on with the kids throughout, hopefully, their schooling and further. I know for me, I'm not a techie and I'm not good at slides and webinars. If you would ask me this last year, this time, Mike, do a webinar for me, I'll be like, you got the wrong guy. I'm not the one. But this itself, I have to look at the positive. It presented a huge opportunity for me to grow professionally and increase my repertoire as a counselor. Also, we have internal versus external controls. I think as parents, we really want to try to steer our kids away from the pitfalls of focusing on those external factors that they don't have control of. We don't know how long the pandemic is going to last, how long we'll be in distance learning. Hopefully not long, but they can't control that. But you can't control how much you're going to watch the news and look at the negativity. And you have a lot of internal control that we have to convey to our kids about that. You can't control your effort, your attitude, your emotion towards certain things with distance learning. And as Emily and Dana are going to present, working on the physical space and routines, that's something that you guys can work on and have control with. Also, this is a really good time for especially middle school and upper elementary kids to start being able to advocate for themselves. And that, as parents, we really want to help nourish that, that they be able to reach out to their teachers, and they will have hopefully that time embedded in their distance learning to get those questions answered, and really encourage them to reach out to their teachers, to counseling department, to their peers, and be able to advocate for themselves. For the lower elementary school kids, I mean, this is a great time for them to realize when they need that help, and identify the times that they need help, and how and who do they ask for the help. So really working with them of who their allies are and who the point people are to help them. So I know with my daughter, the other day, she's 3 years old, and I heard her screaming when I was in the kitchen. She's like, "Dad, I can't do it." And I was wondering, what's going on? I walked in. She's like, "I can't put on my shoes." And I looked at her and said, "Well, no, you can't do it yet. But you got to look at the positives. Look at you. You got your shirt on. You put your pants on. Shoes are like one of the harder things to do. And you can do it, but sometimes we need to ask for help. And if we practice enough, you will be able to do it." And, sure enough, I helped her, and a few days later, I did hear her yell from the room, "Dada, I need help." So, it's never too early to help our kids to start working on advocating for themselves. And lastly, use the available supports and resources that are there for you. You do have your teachers. We don't want you to be the heroes. And Dana will talk more about that, but utilize those resources, that you don't have to figure this all on your own. We are in this together, and you have your teachers, you have counseling, you have admin, you have PTA, you have other parent groups and support. So please make sure that you and your children are using those resources. We do have resources at the end of the slides as well that you can check out, and our website is being constantly updated with other resources for distance learning that you can definitely utilize. Next slide, please. So this is one of the resources that we do have, which is called Big Life Journal. That is at the end of the slideshow. And this is just, some tips on Parents Guide to Growth Mindset. And some things I wanted to point out was we can never give our kids, obviously, enough praise, and making sure that it's the right kind of praise. If we are praising them for their effort, for their persistence and their hard work, rather than just on, fixed abilities and just the grades they have, but the journey itself. I think that's really important. Also, as I stated with my own daughters, the power of not yet is that if we do work on, when our kids are going to get frustrated, because there are going to be times that we're going to get frustrated with them, they're going to get frustrated with us, they're going to get frustrated with the system, and we just have to make sure that we look at it as it's temporary and it's yet, and we can figure this out. And not only that, but making these mistakes and this failure is at times is how we learn, and it's a positive thing. And lastly is really recognizing our own mindsets and knowing that us as parents, as I was saying in the beginning, what we bring to the table is really going to set the tone for our children. So, when we are coming into their space and their learning space and approaching how their day is going and how they are prepared, is being able to check, our attitude that we're conveying to them. Next slide, please. And so there's no one playbook that works for everyone. Everybody has different circumstances, different situations, different family styles, split households. So we might have to knock things down and start from scratch at times, and rework our playbook and the way that we're setting up our learning space and how we are learning. So we want to just make sure that that we're not telling you that this is the one and be all way to do things, that you have to figure that out. And that, as the picture shows, is there's many ways down this mountain, and you can utilize different slopes and different ways to succeed. So thank you so much.
All right, hopefully I'm unmuted and you can hear me. Okay, thumbs up. Okay, good. All right. Hi, Emily Foster again, and I'm just going to quickly go over some schedules and routines. So it is very important that you and your children and your family create this daily schedule together. That way that your child feels like they're a part of it and they're invested and they understand what the expectations are and that their voice is being heard. I think that those that will lead to success, knowing that they were part of the ideas. Review the schedule often, I think is important. That way they know what's coming up and are familiar. Keep familiar routines in place. So before all of the pandemic, if you had a routine in the morning that worked for your child, a routine after school that worked, you don't need to change it. So whenever their alarm goes off, whatever breakfast routine was, making sure to brush your teeth, if that was working, no need to change it. If that was not working, this might be a good time to make changes and expectations and what will the flow of your household, whatever is the least amount of stress. If you can make that happen before school, during the lunchtime and then after school to decompress. The other thing that's great is if you Google visual schedules, there's plenty of free printable schedules online. And so that is a great place to start from because visuals help with organization. They help your brain understand what's going on. And the more you're familiar with it, the better, the less stressed out you'll be, the less anxiety. And then the last piece of that is if the schedule isn't working, make changes. I think definitely trying to stick with something for a couple days, a week, give it a fair shot is important. But if it's not working, make changes and have conversations about that. If you notice on the right, there's just this little image of like a before school schedule. It's got like a little tooth and sticky notes. And I can imagine for younger grades, it would be great in the morning, once they brush their teeth, they move the sticky note over. Once they get dressed, they move the sticky note over. I know that we are all in front of computers. And so, but still thinking about it's good to get out of your pajamas and change your shirt and just make sure that you're prepared for the day as if you were going to school, because you are. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some visual schedules I found. So on the left-hand side, it says the non-academic time schedule. So that is the time that you as the parent are leading. So like it's got the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. So thinking about making that a visual would be great. So it's got the teeth, and then in the afternoon, talking about eating a snack, maybe go outside, making sure homework is done, and then before the evening, having dinner together, making sure there's a good bedtime. I know that I had a lot of students in the spring going to bed very late or very early in the morning and then getting up super late. And so that's changed now. So first period or whatever starts at 8:25. So you got to make sure that evening schedule, the lights are out, the electronics are off, so that students are getting the rest that they need. In the middle, it's got a whiteboard. So I love whiteboards, and it's great because you can cross things off, and it's a nice for organization. And then on the right is the academic schedule, which I'll talk about on the next slide. But this is a visual of, what the academics are going to look like. So for example, with elementary, it's got the reading, the math, and then the writing. For us at WCI, it would have the periods, which is also nice to make a visual, again, to just help alleviate any anxiety so that you know what's coming up in the day. Next slide, please. Okay, so 2 separate schedules, and I hope this will help alleviate with stress and anxiety, as I've been touching on a lot. So there's 2 separate schedules. You've got your home schedule, which is led by you, the parent, the caregiver, and then you've got the school schedule. So the parent schedule, as we've talked about, that's the morning routine, the getting dressed, then the lunchtime, so allowing for movement, get outside. I was talking about this with a parent, maybe this is the time to FaceTime your friends, so that you do get a little bit of the social time. And then the after school allow for decompression for you and your child. So maybe you go on a family walk, or you take the dog outside. You touch base on assignments, just saying, did you get your homework done? Maybe show me that you got your homework done. And then before bed, making sure that your child is ready for the next day. I think is great to alleviate that in the morning stress of like, where's that folder? Where's that binder? Where's my cable for my computer? Having that set up at night will help in the morning. The other piece is the school day schedule. So as it states, it's led by the teacher. So teachers will set the school day schedule. So I'm sure your schools hopefully have communicated that with you so that you know what that will look like. As I've stated, create a visual schedule to help with that, to help your student feel organized. I love planners. I've been using them, I don't know, probably since I was 10. And even though we're virtual, I think it's great to still use a planner so you know what your homework is, your children can see what the week layout is going to look like, so they can stay on top of assignments. And then just for time management is a good recommendation. Next slide, please. Okay, so learning environment, physical space. Okay, so the piece that I want to really echo is it doesn't need to be fancy. I know that Pinterest is wonderful and it's also awful at the same time. So it's great to find an area in your home that's away from distractions such as toys, maybe siblings, the television, or other noise, and it doesn't need to be fancy. Having all supplies within arm's reach. So if you think about it, your students, if they need to get up for a ruler or the calculator or, you know, a pad of paper, it's good to have that, especially since we're doing distance learning. It's great to have that all in front of you within an arm's reach so that, you know, they don't have to get up and come ask you, where's the ruler? Because that time that they're away from their teacher's instruction is lost time, right? And that encourages disengagement, distraction, and they miss things. So if that can all be within their work area, I highly recommend it. Yeah, it'll help aid in the excuses to get up. Oh, I need this, I need this, I need a snack. Maybe you need to put snacks, like I said, within arm's reach. The other piece that I would recommend is, you know, the phone, all personal devices, lots of iWatches, your personal iPad. We would recommend removing from the area because then it's not tempting. It's a temptation, right? Oh, is my friend going to text me? Let me scroll through my Instagram while my math teacher's teaching. So I think that if it can either be in another room, maybe with you as the parent, you're holding it for them, just as if we were in class, right? If you're in class, you're teaching math, hopefully you're not walking around seeing that everyone's on their phone texting each other. So I would recommend that to help with distractions. Next slide, please. Okay, the space. So this is something that I think is a great idea that I hadn't thought about until recently, is the difference between a learning space versus a relaxation space. So in our home, my workspace is the kitchen table because I don't have a desk. And my relaxation place is definitely the couch in front of the TV or the bed because that's where naps happen and sleep. So if you can think about where your child can separate the two. So avoiding the couch in front of the TV as their desk. If you can avoid that, that would be good. Bedrooms are wonderful so that they feel like they have a safe space. But if that is their relaxation space and their learning space, it makes it hard because it's all just jumbled and combined. So if you can think about if it has to be their bedroom, you know, avoiding their bed. Because one, I think about trying to organize on your bed seems a little bit difficult. And two, that's where they're supposed to be restful, right? And stress-free and not having to think about what's coming up for school. So if you are able to separate those two for your child, and you can have this be a conversation, you know, saying to your child, where do you think would be best for you to concentrate? Okay, I think it would be easiest to concentrate in front of my video game console. Okay, maybe that's actually not the best place for you to concentrate, and having it be a conversation so that they understand the reasoning behind why this has become your desk. Proximity. So I think this is important thinking about younger grades. It's important to be near them for supervision, as I'm saying, especially for younger kids. If you do have a middle schooler that's just going to close their door and be in there all day, you know, check on them. Make sure the windows are open. Make sure they're drinking water. You don't want them to be in there for 17 hours alone. It's just, if you're able to, touching base. If you're working from home, as a lot of us are, it would be nice to work near each other. That way you can be near them, as I was talking about proximity. And then communicating, working, and learning routine. So for example, if you're working at the kitchen table and your second grader is working at the kitchen table, making sure that they know that if you need to be on a call, on a Zoom, that there's some sort of communication, whether it's a red sticky note that said, now is not the time, or some sort of way, a visual way is great too, so that they know that you're either in the midst of what you're doing or they're in the midst of what they're doing, and so that you can respect each other's working and learning, because you both have a job to do. So I think that's important. As I've said, options, kitchen table, even manila folders, as we may have all used during testing time, is a great visual barrier of this is my space. I know I had a friend mention to me, even if it's just a card table, that every day you pull up, you take it out, oh my gosh, everything's organized and great. And then at the end of the day, you can put it away and then say, okay, I'll bring it out again tomorrow. The other piece that we have thought about is if you have multiple children in one space, what are you going to do? You've got the fourth grader and the second grader. And so I think it's important to make them both feel like they have their safe place to learn and engage. Obviously, headphones would be good, since there's going to be hopefully a lot of engagement online. I had even thought about it. Someone had mentioned to me, if you even took masking tape and just put it on the carpet or the floor and just said okay, this is your space, this is your brother's space, try to stay in here, and that way you don't feel interrupted, to discourage distractions. The other piece that I was thinking about is if each child, if you're able to, have their own designated supplies, that way they don't have to go take their brother's pencil or take the power cable or whatever it may be, because those things, they may need them, and so it's nice to have a set for each child. Next page, please. Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to take over here, and we're going to start talking about kind of the nitty-gritty of this this webinar today. And I think a lot of us have this question. Today the three of us sit and talk to you as counselors, but we're also parents. And so just like you, we have many different roles in this, and we want to make sure that we all are kind of clear about what those roles are. And I think what's really important for you to hear today is that while everyone has a role, yours gets to be the parent. I think when we went in spring to our crisis learning time, we didn't have these roles as defined. We were all trying to make do with what we had, and it happened really quick. And although we made it through, we all had to put on a lot of hats. And so I think the idea that we want to come back and bring back to you today is that your hat is the parent hat. And so I was very fortunate to be able to talk with a woman, Dr. Elena Chen, who's a local psychologist here in Walnut Creek. And she and I were talking about what it is that parents grapple with during this time. And the biggest thing we talked about was the role. And so I want you for a moment, a lot of times when we are going into something we don't know, like this new distance learning plan that we have here in our model in the district, we need to relate it to something we do know. And so we really started talking about, Elaine and I, about how can we relate that? So she came up with the idea of the soccer game. A lot of us have taken our kids to a soccer game. And everyone has a role, right? You have a coach, you have the players, you have the parents. The coach's job is to make sure the players are playing and learning and getting that experience of the game. The parent's role is to make sure they're prepared, so that they have their snack if they need it. They've got their water bottle full. They've got the right color jersey on, and they've got their shin guards. They make sure that they get them to the game on time so that the coach can talk with them about the game plan that they're going to have, and also give them that connection with their peers and starting their day, or starting that game in a positive way. So I want you to think of that analogy as we go through this today, because I think you're going to find that it's very similar. The role of the parent in distance learning is to prepare your child for their school day, and then to talk with them at the end of the school day. And the great thing about this year, as we go into the year, is that we have teachers who are live teaching, and they get to be the teacher. We're not doing homeschool. That is a different model. This is a model where the teacher is providing the curriculum for you. The teacher is guiding the instruction and guiding the work. And so here are some things we're going to talk about now that you can do, though, that is really great as your role of the parent in the distance learning day. And the first one that I really comes to mind for us was that those back to school traditions that you had. Just because we're in distance learning doesn't mean we need to do them. And this does not need to be anything fancy, but I know people that have breakfast on a special plate, or they make pancakes because all the rest of the days are cereal. Or maybe there's a pair of, they get a special scented markers, or they have a special back to school outfit that they get. Sometimes kids get new backpacks and they're really excited about those. Do those things. Take that picture on the first day of school. For those of you that are TK and kindergarten families, this is a great chance to start a tradition, being able to think about something that you can do year after year. And just because we may be going back into our homes after that tradition happens, doesn't mean that we don't do it. And it's really important for our kids to see that those traditions still live on, even though we're doing a different model of learning. The other part of this goes back to that soccer analogy. We need to make sure that our kids are ready for the school day. And so that means, just like Emily was saying, our morning routines are in place. Our kids are up and dressed. They're ready to start their school day on time. They get to that amazing learning space that you've made, whether it be the dining room table with a little office middle of folders, or their personal desk, whatever that space is that you've come up with. But they're there on time, ready to learn. So they've logged into their Zoom meeting, their toys and their phones, those distractions are put away, and they've taken care of the before school business. And this could be anything from texting that last friend, or for our littler friends maybe, and some of our bigger friends, making sure they're using the restroom before they start their day, just as they would for the school day. I know some of you are using our childcare on our campuses or other childcare. The same holds true. We want to make sure we get them there in time so that they can feel they can find their space in their daycare, and they can get onto the Zoom on time, so that they're with their coach or their teacher to start the day, because the teacher's going to start in that morning meeting, or for our older students, there's going to be that advisory piece, and they're going to want to make sure that your child is a part of that. That's how we build community. And so a great thing for you as a parent to do to help build that community is make sure that they're there. Let me get to the next slide. The other thing, and this is something that I've talked with now a lot of families about, and this is especially true for our younger students and our younger children out there. The role of the screen has been a very interesting thing in their lifetime. It's either a very passive screen time where they're maybe watching TV, YouTube, their favorite Netflix show. So they're just passive observers in that. Or they are playing iPads or video games where they're constantly touching or tapping or being involved in the screen and getting that instant gratification back. And what they're going to be doing next week is different than that. So having that explicit conversation with your children, especially those younger children, about what it means to be on a Zoom call and to see your teacher, that your teacher can see you. That the things that you do and the actions that you take are part of your school day, and they're all being monitored by your peers and your teachers. So we want to focus on the teacher. We want to focus on our peers. We want to stay the whole time. We don't want to get up in the middle and walk around and do our own thing, because our teacher and our peers are watching us do that. We want to make sure we're using an inside voice. We don't need to scream into the computer monitor. They can hear us. We are all there together. And so just as we would use an inside voice and an outside voice, we want to continue that. And then that same idea for the respect for our teachers and peers, that we're not going to jump in and we're going to wait our turn. Your teachers are going to have procedures and they're going to practice those with you. And so making sure that you're listening to your teacher and what she's expecting of you. So that explicit conversation, I know we kind of take for granted, but it's really important for our students, and especially those kids that don't have a lot of experience on Zoom. Some of our older students do have that, but we still want to make sure that we are saying that we're not going to turn on our picture or turn off our video, that we want to engage in that, because the whole point of creating the distance model that we did is we want to engage and we want to build community with our classes. The other thing that is a great help is that you can learn your child's platform delivery, the Seesaw or the Google Classroom model. I know a lot of principals have sent out the direct links to those, how to look at those and learn those delivery systems, but they're also available on our district website. And we'll have that resource up for you at the end so you can link directly into those. But getting to know those features, just so that you can also be there if your child has a quick question about them. And now we're kind of getting to the meat of this, or we're actually getting to game time. And so the school day has started, the game has started. And there's a couple of things that you want to set up for that game time. And there's also a couple of things that as parents, we need to reflect upon. So I'm going to start with that, the setting the realistic expectations for yourself and your children. This is not going to be perfect. This is a learning experience. And so there's going to be needs that come up. There's going to be issues that arise, but there are some things that we can do as parents to be proactive in that. And going back to those schedules and routines, the parent work time is a big piece of this. I know a lot of us are going to be working from home or trying to do the work of the home. It's all a busy time for all of us. And so we really need to set those expectations about what we as parents need from our children. For our older children, it may be those really explicit conversations of, I need to do this work when you see my door closed. That means I need to not be disturbed in that. For our younger children, we might be closer in proximity in the workspace, but we're creating some kind of system that lets the child let you know that they need you or that you may need them, but without interrupting your workday. So kind of going back to what Emily was saying, it might be a sticky note passing thing. It may be a cue, it might just be a little tap on the desk. It might be something like that. That's not going to be a yell or scream of they need you in that moment. So setting those expectations and practicing them before we start is huge. The other piece of this is there are going to be break times. And there is going to be lunchtime. And so thinking about what you want your children to do during that time, if you're going to be having lunch first, if you want them to go out and play around, if you have a little go noodle or something like that, that they're going to do jumping jacks on before they eat their lunch, whatever your system is, setting that expectation that that's what we're going to be doing during lunchtime so that we're not kind of wasting our time and then have to be back on and have missed our food time, which is really key. The kind of going back to that can it wait, need me now system, again, that what are you going to do to set up that time where and that conversation with your child of what consists of need me now? What does that look like? Bleeding, that's probably a need me now, glasses all over the floor, probably a need me now. I need a pencil, probably not a need me now. And so having those conversations, I know we take, again, those things for granted and we get annoyed and bothered. I know as a parent, I do, but we need to actually teach that to our children. The other thing that's really key is that there is going to be some independent work time in this, that your child is going to be live with their teacher, but in TK through 8th grade, there's going to be an independent work component or time for the student to get some work accomplished. We all work at different paces. Children are no different. Just as in a classroom, you're going to have the kid that's done in 5 minutes versus the kid that's going to be done in 20 minutes. That kid that's done in 5 needs to know what to do when we're done. And so I think one of the things that you can do is set up a what to do when you're done checklist, or for our younger students, a what to do when you're done little bin. Maybe that consists of Play-Doh or drawing things. For older students, there's some amazing adult coloring books out there that they can do, or maybe that is then their time where they get to be social with their friends. But setting that expectation of what to do when I'm done with my work is really important, because otherwise they're going to come bugging you. And the idea is that we want to make sure that we are all able to do the work that we need during that time. So just being really thoughtful about what can your kids do when they have that downtime and setting that up for them. And then we get to the game and we see the soccer game's going great and our child is out there running around and they pass the ball and they turn it over and it goes to the other team. And the other team turns around and scores. But in a game, if we go back to that analogy, as parents, when we sit on the sideline, we don't jump into the middle of the game. So when our child kicks that ball to the wrong team, we don't jump out in the middle of the game and start telling them how they did it wrong and what they need to do right and how to fix it. And this is the hardest thing for parents, and I'm included. We see our children now learning during the school day, and there are going to be times when they pass it to the wrong person. They are going to make mistakes. They are going to struggle in their learning, but that's an important part of the process. That is an excellent education. It's all about learning and growth. And sometimes our children have to grapple with ideas. They have to play around with things. They have to question. They have to say, I don't understand. They have to get an answer wrong and relook at it again. And if we jump into the middle of that, we're taking away their learning. And this is a really hard concept as parents, because we don't like to see our children struggle. We don't like to see them frustrated or hurt. We want to make it better for them. And yet as learners, they need to feel a little bit of that struggle. They need to feel a little bit of that frustration. Now, if this is happening on a daily basis, that's an entirely new conversation that we're having. And that's when you're reaching out to your teachers and your support staff at your sites. But in the everyday of learning, our children do grapple with information and struggle and get things wrong. And that those mistakes, and that is where that learning really comes in. And so just as you wouldn't jump out in the middle of that soccer game to tell your kid where to kick the ball, you can't jump in the middle of a lesson to tell your kid how to do it a different way. That doesn't mean you can't come back and talk about it later. And we're going to get to that part. That's part of the reflection of the day. But in that moment, we have to kind of hold back on that instinct to jump in. And so now we get to the end of the game, and your kid's done a great job. They ran the whole time, they put in their best effort, or maybe they didn't do so great and they were bummed and they didn't get to play, or they didn't get that time. So your role of the parent in that game is to console, is to praise, is to talk about what can be different next time. And it's the same thing for the school day. So at the end of this school day, it's been a long day for your kid. They've worked in that day. Maybe it hasn't been great. Maybe it's been fantastic. But that's our moment to follow up. There's the practical applications of following up, like, is your work turned in? Is it complete? Do we need to check in with your teacher? Those kinds of aspects, right? Helping with that advocacy, thinking about what do I need to do to get my work done. But there's also those reflective questions. What went well? What do I need help with? Those are kind of that mindset that Michael was talking about again. It's encouraging our children to reflect on their day. And that's a chance where you as a parent get to come in and get to talk about it with them. And maybe that's when you bring up some things maybe you've noticed in the school day. That also goes back to that self-advocacy part. If things aren't working, what do we do? How do we make it better? Who do we reach out to? So instead of you as the parent fixing it, it may be that you're helping your child direct them to who might be able to help them. Your teachers are going to be available for you during the school day. Through student support, they'll be setting up things and times for student check-in. And so maybe it's writing that question down on the sticky note so that they are reminded to ask their teachers. Those are great ways to help them. And then again, I can't say this enough, just that encouragement, love, and support. We're going to have good days and we're going to have bad days just as we would if this were a regular school day. But we have to really give our kids that idea that we're in this together and that we're going to make this work. And it may not work on the first try, but we're all working together. And we as parents, as teachers, as support staff are here for them. Which leads me to my last point, which is know your communication channels and reach out. We are a team and we are in this together. Carefully read the emails. I know there's a lot. There's a lot coming and it's coming fast, but there's a lot of detail in that. And your teachers and principals are sending you information that is really vital, important, or they wouldn't be sharing it. So even if you have to lock yourself in the bathroom for those few minutes to get that email read, it's important to do that. We have a lot of resources on the school district website for checking out on the parent guardian tab. We have some great district office administration who've been putting up some amazing things. This will become part of that program as well, and we hope to be adding more as we go on too. If you're ready, if you're seeing struggles, if there's becoming a pattern of need and help, reach out, start with your child's teacher. They can start directing you, and then if we need to, we can get principals and counseling or other site staff and support staff involved. But don't be hesitant to reach out because we're here to help. And there might be even a simple answer to something that you haven't thought of or we haven't thought of, but putting our heads together, we can come up with it. And we can make this work for our students while we're in the distance learning day. Well, I'll leave this up here for just a moment. It's just a resources and links page. This is going to be put up onto the district website. So you'll be able to click in these directly, but we have things on mindset for parents specifically. It is like a little back to school package that they offer for free. There's some examples on school and home routines. There are also some articles for parent reminders. A lot of what we talked about in here today is in those parent reminders. And then our district has some great resources in social emotional learning for what you can do at home. There's an entire remote parent learning guide with more information about distance learning itself. And there's also tech tutorials and resources. So at that point in time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you'll get to see all of our faces again to say goodbye.
So Dana, we've had a couple questions about is the presentation going to be shared or the slides, because they would like to, there's some parents who would like to go back in and use these resources.
They are. So we are going to be doing two things with this. The slideshow will be available up shortly. I'm actually, as we were talking, in communication with our one of our website coordinators who's going to be putting those up. And then we're also going to be putting up this webinar. And we hope to get some other like resources around it, like closed captioning and things like that, so that we'll be able to share it with all of our families. So yes, they're going to be available. I'm hoping to have the slides up actually later today. I'm going to send our slideshow over to the district, our district coordinator, right as soon as we're done with this. And then we will get this video up soon as well. Plus, there's also going to be that Google form that we want to make sure that you receive and respond to as well. So Emily and Mike, do you want to say, anything else?
I just want to say thank you so much for coming and being with us today. As Dana said, the Google form will give us some feedback on things that you want us to present on in the future. And always feel free to connect with us, email us. We're pretty good at responding to emails, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can and answer your questions the best we can. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much. We do appreciate you taking your time out of your day. And again, we're in this together. You're not alone. So please lean on us and your resources that are available. So thank you so much.
And with that, we appreciate very much that you joined us for our very first ever webinar. We hope as we do these more and more, we get a little bit more professional about them, but we really appreciate your time. And I think what you're hearing from us is really the most important message, that is that you're not alone in this, and we definitely don't have all the answers, but we'll get as much information to you as we can, and we want to work with you. So thank you so much. And with that, we're going to end it today. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming.
All right, take care, everyone.